Okay, now listen, everybody and anybody who is interested, George Patton is obviously, as we said, with informationinvestor.com. If you want to reach George Patton specifically, you can email him at gpatton@informationinvestor.com. And also, alternatively, he also has the email address georgepatton@informationinvestor.com.
Some of the people whose advice I hold in the highest regard are saying the exact same things, and there isn't a lot of time. I don't like hype. I don't like to respond to hype or fear. I told the commodities trader one time, I guess 93 or 94 when I was getting into commodities, he was saying, oh, well, there's some warehouses holding cocoa in Western Virginia, and the FDA is going to raid them next week, and if they're rancid, cocoa prices are going to soar. I said, dude, listen, stop right there. I don't respond well to hype, and I don't try to give hype out, but I feel so strongly about the current situation. I feel it is such a propitious point to bring our message to the public that even if they don't contact us at informationinvestor.com, they need to talk to their own broker, they need to pare back their portfolios, they need to move a little bit more into cash and the safety of corporate bonds, because there are a lot of variables out here right now that are showing worrisome signs, and the people who are in charge are either unaware of how to fix the problem or reticent as to whether the problem really exists. And I'm referring specifically about Mr. Trichet, who is the head of the European Central Bank, who continues to monetize the debt, but whitewashing the result by saying that, I mean that he is buying now European, Italian and Spanish bonds, but with the liquidity that creates, he's drawing that back out of the system, so he's not really adding any money into the system to pump up. The markets in the deflationary era need more and more liquidity because it's kind of like sucked out of the economy like a sponge would suck up all the water. You need to kind of reflate. That's what Bernanke has been trying to do all along, to his credit. It hasn't worked. He doesn't have the right avenues, or he doesn't have the right bully pulpit to get things moving, but at least he's trying. Trichet, as in 2008, is not trying, and he won't try until it's too late, and then they'll panic and try and do too much. But, we've seen this movie before, and by this time I think everybody will be headed towards the exits.
Speaking of movies, and we want people to be heading toward the entrance, at informationinvestor.com, we invest in a lot of different businesses, a lot of different markets, a lot of different projects. One of the movies that we're investing in and helping to produce is Watermelon Sushi by Yayoi Lena Winfrey. She's a mutual friend, associate of both George and myself, and so we also want for people to check out Watermelon Sushi blog online, Facebook, anywhere you see any information about Watermelon Sushi, that's us. We invest in film projects. Do you want to talk about the film market?
There's a trailer of Watermelon Sushi on YouTube.
There is
for example.
That is correct, my man. Yes, if anybody wants to check out the trailer for Watermelon Sushi, just Google Watermelon Sushi. You will see the trailer on YouTube. Yayoi Winfrey, she's a public figure. You can find her on Facebook. She has maximum number of friends, and there's a holding pattern of about 200 people in line. So, look, the numbers grow every day. We've got blogs. We're on Twitter. We also have a celebrity talk show called Sexy Voices of Hollywood, SVOH. So, what we do at informationinvestor.com is myriad. We do many different things. We have talk shows, we have webcasts, we have product lines, and we're also involved in commodities. George, do you want to give the audience some information? First of all, again, if you're just tuning in, George, how many years were you on Wall Street?
On Wall Street, around Wall Street, fugitive from Wall Street. I started this in 1981 with the technical analysis and trading stocks and such. And ever since then, I've had a passion. Well, even before then, I've had a passion for it. Kind of runs in my blood. I would like to talk just a bit about commodities, if you don't mind.
Sure.
One thing, this time last year, I was noticing it wasn't raining in Brazil. Now, most people would say, well, big deal, what is that? Well, if you're a seasoned veteran like I am, you realize suddenly that we had a weather pattern known as a La Nina. Now, I beat CNBC and the Wall Street Journal to press by 2 weeks talking about the La Nina pattern.
Wait, hold up. So you mean to say, and I believe that I was privy to this information previously. I had known about it through yourself, and now that I'm hearing it reiterated, that's right. You predicted the weather pattern of La Nina.
Well, I noticed it was occurring.
Right.
I just noticed it was occurring. I said, hey, it's not raining in Brazil. weeks, and if it doesn't rain in Brazil in July in 4 weeks' time, we may be having a La Nina. Well, fortunately and unfortunately for a lot of people, this was one of the strongest La Ninas in the last 100 years, but we just happened to be there and noticed it and get out first, and that's what we're talking about, being on the cusp of information and getting there first. So on July 31st of last year, I put out a recommendation to buy the stocks, the fertilizer companies, CF Industries, and Potash, knowing that in a drought situation where corn and grain and soybean prices are going up, investors are going to buy fertilizer companies. Don't ask me why, that's just how it works. Well, 2 weeks later, about the 15th of August last year, Potash got a $41 billion takeover offer by BHP Billiton.
Damn.
BHP Billiton. The stock jumped immediately 50% overnight. Our investors, our people following my advice, made a huge windfall, and that just began a 9-month period of outperformance by the resource companies and the grains. And I call the fertilizer companies my rare earths, parodying off of the rare earths debacle that sent companies like Molycorp through the stratosphere, because China is hoarding the rare earths that are involved in the production of all sorts of high-tech equipment. Food being an essential commodity, and fertilizer being used to enhance the yield of the grain production, to me, that is even a more critical element, and thus those are my rare earths. But that's the type of thing we like to look for in terms of finding a differential advantage, or in terms of staying ahead of the curve.
Now, George is talking about staying ahead of the curve, and that's what we do at InformationInvestor.com. I want to put this out there for any and all listeners. You can call us on our Manhattan telephone line at 646-470-8655. Once again, our telephone number in Manhattan, New York is 646-470-8655. If you'd like to have George Patton, stock market savant, on your show, give us a call. George, what's going on with China?
China, I think Napoleon said it best, is an enigma wrapped in a riddle and with a question mark there someplace. It's hard to get information in and out of China. Now, China, I was following very closely because of the drought in northern China, north of Beijing. That's their main wheat growing area. But the information is very sketchy and comes out in dribs and drabs, oftentimes several months late. They did have a major drought, did push wheat prices up, which caused them to buy huge amounts of corn to feed their livestock, because as the Chinese populace has prospered, they're now eating more protein. They're eating more pork primarily in their meals, and pork takes a lot more grains to produce than, let's say, chickens even, for example. So we followed them to see what was going on with the diet and all of that, but it's hard to get information out. Now, I'm sure you're referring to the fact that China is trying to stave off commodity inflation.
Yes, sir.
And they have been raising rates almost relentlessly over a period of time. I have been amazed by the Chinese government. Years ago, I wrote a piece that you can't stop a freight train that's going at 60 or 70 miles an hour on a dime. If you do, you'll kind of derail it. They tried this again in 2004 and 2005, and lo and behold, the central bank, the Politburo, rather, the Central Planning Agency, was able to pull it off and slow the economy just enough, and then have it reaccelerate once again. So they're trying it again. They may be able to succeed. I wish them well in their attempt, because we certainly do not want to see a recession in China. China needs so much growth just because of the fact that they're trying to go from agrarian to urbanization, and they built out all of this infrastructure in preparation for the immigrants to come and live in these towns and cities and to prosper there. So we need to wish them well if they continue that, because China is kind of the juggernaut that's keeping the rest of the industries going. But that said, China runs on exports. If the developed world is consuming less, then the Chinese production will either pile up on the ports, or they'll have to reduce their production. And they reduce the production, they're going to lay people off, and that's what's been happening so far, and that's why we're having sporadic instances of rioting and unrest in different provinces around the country.
George, that's fantastic, man. And now listen, everyone, the next time we're going to have a good friend of ours from InformationInvestor.com. He's also with the company. He's from Zimbabwe, graduate from George Mason University in the field of economics. We're going to have him paired up with George Patton. We're going to talk about Zimbabwe, because on InformationInvestor.com, we also have foreign intelligence. It's not just local, city, state, federal, it's overseas, it's international, we're worldwide. This is stock market savant intelligence, business intelligence information right off Wall Street, right out of Beijing, right out of any city, anywhere in the world. We've got it. George Patton's got it. So next time, stay tuned. Same channel, same place. George?
Robert, let's tease him just a little bit. Since your colleague is from Zimbabwe, we can tease him about some of the greatest inflationary epochs of our time, one of which, of course, was in Zimbabwe just recently, where you had billion-dollar notes. Let's hope that that never happens here.
Wow. All right, that's it. George?
Thank you, Robert. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope everybody heeds the advice, and thanks for coming. Come back again.